Hey y'all, welcome to Back Porch Cooking and Reminiscing. We're the Morgans and we're happy to have y'all here with us today. Remember to hit that subscribe, like, and hit the bell button. Hey y'all. So today it's been a little rainy looking outside, so instead of going out and taking a chance on getting rained on, we've decided we'll just come inside and do a little cooking. We're going to do something that we used to do when we were in Montego for our Sunday dinner. And that's going to be a baked pork chop with green beans and hominy and cheese. I know probably some of you've never had hominy and cheese before, but stay with me here and see what it looks like when we're done with it and maybe give it a try. I think you'll like it. Okay, so first thing let's do here before we get started with our dredge is let's get our cast iron Dutch oven. This is a Lodge cast iron Dutch oven. We're going to use it to brown our pork chops and then put them in the oven and bake them. So let's get that started. I'm going to set that on about a 5.5 just to get it warming up. And we're going to put us a little bit of oil in it. This is canola oil, and you can use whatever kind of oil you want to use. It doesn't have to be canola. It can be vegetable or corn or just, whatever you want. Just put you a little bit in the bottom so you'll be able to brown everything. So we've got that turned on. Well, let's go ahead and get our oven preheating. We're going to set our oven at 350 degrees. And we'll start that. So there we go. That's preheating. So now we're going to get to our dredge. Now we've got about a cup of flour in this bowl right here. That's going to be all we're going to need because we're only going to do about 4 pork chops, and they're going to be boneless pork chops. So we'll do that. And over here, we've got some water, and we put about a half a tablespoon of salt in that water. And you're going to see what we're going to use that for here in just a minute. So let's get our dredge ready. So as I said, we've got 1 cup of flour. All right, we're going to use a half of a teaspoon of paprika, and we're going to use about a half of a teaspoon of black pepper. All right, and we're going to use about a half of a teaspoon of just regular, that's a 3/4 tablespoon, so not hardly a full tablespoon of salt in that because we put a little salt in our water over there, so we're going to have that. And then we're going to use a half of a tablespoon of onion powder and a half of a teaspoon, I think it's a tablespoon on that, that's a teaspoon of garlic powder. And then we're going to do a half of a teaspoon of basil. So there's our basil. All right, so now we got all of our ingredients in there for our dredge, but we need to get us a fork because we want to get that all stirred up and mixed up. Again, as I said before, we used to do this for our Sunday dinner at Mont Eagle when we were there, and everybody really seemed to enjoy the pork chops and everything. So hope y'all will give this a try. It's a good little recipe, and you can use this dredge for a lot of different things. It doesn't just have to be for pork chops. You can use it for chicken or just anything you want to put a little light breading on. All right, so we've got that all stirred up. Now we're going to get our pork chops out. Now we haven't done anything special to these pork chops. They just or a boneless pork chop, nothing extra special to it. But what we're going to do is we're going to take that pork chop. We're going to first put it in that salt water. And that's going to do two things. It's going to give us a little bit of saltiness, and it's going to put something there that our flour can stick to. All right, but here's the little trick. We're going to do it again. We're going to get it in there again. We're going to bring it back and put it in that flour again. All right, our grease is getting hot. So let's go ahead and put us a pork chop in there. All right, we're going to do the same thing here with the second one. Back in that solution and back in to the flour again. And just try to get it coated good with the flour. And then we're going to drop it back in there in that oil. We'll get our next one out. In the water. In the flour. Back in the water. Back in the flour. And we'll just make sure we get that good and covered. All right, and we go back into our skillet with that. Make us a little extra room for that last one. All right, back in that water one more time. Just be sure you get it all good and covered. And then we're going to go back in our skillet with that one. All right, so we got all four of them in there browning. All right, and I'm going to get cleaned up with my hands here, and then we'll come back and we'll do a little more. All right, so we've browned these on one side, so let's get them turned over on the other side so they can be browning. And they're looking good. All right, and if they're a little bit dry at this point, if your pan's looking a little dry, like they're soaking up all of your oil, you can always add you a little more oil to it. That's no big problem. At least want them to get a good fried base on them. All right. We're going to take that and let it brown there for just a little bit. And then we're going to turn our stove top off. And we're going to go in the oven with these puppies. All right, we're going to turn the stove off. And we're going to put our lid on our cast iron. And now we're going to we're going to go in the oven with it. Let me get me another pot holder, because where this has been sitting on the stove, I'm guessing that those handles are probably going to be pretty hot. So we got our ovens preheated to 350. We're just going to take that, put that right in there. Yeah, we're not going to be able to use our top oven because it is too small for that. Okay, so we had a little bit of technical difficulty there. I didn't realize that my top oven wouldn't accept that cast iron oven. So we made changes and we put it in the lower oven. So now we're going to leave that in there probably, oh, maybe an hour. And I'll let you know when it's ready, and we'll get ready to do those green beans and that hominy and cheese. Okay, so we've got our pork chops are done. It really only took about 35-40 minutes in the oven at 350. So we've got them pulled out over here and just leaving the top on them while we get ready to get all of our other stuff together. So what I've done is I've opened up our can of hominy and I've drained it off and rinsed it off. And so we're ready to put it in the pot. And it's just white hominy, like I said before. It's nothing that you can't find at the grocery store. They got them just about everywhere I've ever been before. They've had the white hominy. There's also a yellow hominy too, but we're going to use the white here and just stir it around, break it up a little bit, and get our eye turned on. We're just going to bring that to a good kind of little bit of a boil there. So we'll be waiting on that. And our green beans, I've done the same thing with the green beans. I've opened them up, rinsed them off, and put some water back in. So we're going to put those over here on this side. We might go with just a little bit more water in there than what we had in the can. Need to have a little more water for what we're going to do with them. All right, so we got that. So let's get us some salt and some pepper. Let's put a little bit of salt in the hominy, a little bit of salt in the green beans. All right, and a little bit of pepper in both of them. That just depends on what you like, whether you like a lot or just a little. Now, here's the trick for the green beans. And I'm going to get this eye turned on here for the green beans. But I always like to put 1 cube of beef bouillon into my green beans, along with the salt and pepper. So let's get that opened up and get that in there. That's going to create a really, really good broth for your green beans. And a lot of people just will open the can and heat up the can full, but again, this is just a little something added to it to give it a little more flavor. And that's why I didn't put a lot of salt in there either, is because this bouillon is pretty salty. So we're going to put one of those in there. Just drop it in. All right, now one more thing that I like to do with my green beans is get a little minced onion to go in there. We're just going to open that up. We're going to put a little bit of that in there with it. Give it a little more flavor. All right, now all we got to do is wait on everything to heat up and come to a boil, and we're getting pretty close to being ready to plate this stuff up and have something to eat. So we got our hominy boiling, we got our green beans boiling, so now we've cut the heat down on the hominy, and it's going to be time to put our cheese in. But one thing I forgot to tell you, when we were doing the pork chops and we put them in before we put them in the oven, take you about a 1/4 cup of water and pour into your bacon, whatever you're baking in, whether it's a Dutch oven or a cast iron skillet with aluminum foil over it, or any type of a oven safe glass pan, just whatever you're using. Put you about a 1/4 cup of water in there with those pork chops, and you're going to see a huge difference in it. So now we're ready to put our cheese in. So what we got is we've got about 4 pieces. That's going to be something like the deluxe cheese that you can buy that doesn't have the wrappers on it, but you can use any kind of cheese you want. If you want to use Velveeta or just whatever makes you happy. This is just the kind of cheese we've always used in the restaurant. So we're going to put that in there, and once we get that all broke up and put in there, we're going to give it a good stir. We're just going to melt that cheese into that hominy. It's basically just like you're doing macaroni and cheese. You just want a good cheese sauce to go with it. But now we're going to add a little extra something to it. So we've got some of this cheese, and this is something we've always put like in our macaroni and cheese and everything. So it does make it really good. It's just some of the kind of like the salad type cheese. I think it's a Colby and some other kind of blend of cheese, but we're going to put some of that in there. And you may be able to hear our beans boiling over here. We're just going to stir this up. Again, like I say, we put this other cheese in our macaroni and cheese along with the American cheese, and I don't know if you can see what that's looking like or not, but it's looking pretty darn good. We're just going to let that cheese continue to melt out. I'm telling you, if you've never had this, it's really good. The only thing is it's got a little bit of a kind of strange consistency to it as far as and we're going to turn it off there because that cheese is just about melted. We're just going to let it sit there. But like I say, it's got a little bit of a chewy consistency to it as far as the hominy goes. But I'm telling you guys, it's really good. So we're going to let that just sit there. Go ahead and move it off the heat because it doesn't need to cook anymore. See how our green beans are doing. I believe they're about ready as well. All right, so we're going to turn those off. Just let them sit there until they stop boiling. And then we're going to be ready to plate us up some food here. And I'll show you what these pork chops looks like here in just a minute. All right, so everything is ready, and we're going to plate us up a plate of everything here. Now, use your spatula when you go to get these pork chops out. Now I can tell you, they're not going to be the prettiest pork chops you've ever seen, but they are going to taste really good. So there's one of our pork chops that come out. Looks really good, and they are super tender. All right, let's get a better spoon for those. I'm going to use a slotted spoon to get these green beans out because I don't particularly like a whole lot of juice running all over my plate. So we're going to get those out with that. Get some green beans there. All right, now then let's get some of this hominy and cheese here. It's thickened up a little bit, which if you don't like it really thick, you can put you a little more water in it, or whatever you want to do. I do like it a little thick myself, so we're going to leave it just like it is for me. You can see it's got a awesome cheese sauce with it. All right, so there's what our plate's going to look like. I'm gonna let this cool just a minute because it's pretty hot, and then we'll come back and we'll give it a taste test. All right, so we give it a little time for things to cool down here where we can eat it and not burn our mouths up. So let's see what we got here. Oh, look how tender that pork chop is. That's called fork tender right there. Now let's give it a try. Mm, mm, mm. That is so tender. Got an awesome taste to it. Let's give our green beans a shot. Yep, good on the green beans. And now here's one that most of you are gonna wonder about trying, and that's the hominy and cheese. But I'm telling you, it's good. Mm. Adding that little bit of cheddar and Colby Jack is really sets it off. So if y'all haven't ever tried anything like this, I'm telling you, you need to, because it is out of this world. This is a good Sunday dinner for those of you who have family come over. You may have to use some bigger pots and pans and everything, depending on how many people you're cooking for. But I'm telling you, they're going to love this. As I said, pork chops may not be the prettiest in the world, but man, they are good. So y'all remember, if you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button. Help us grow the channel. Also click on that bell button. That way you'll get notifications when that we do a new video. And hope y'all try this, because it is really good. Thank you for watching. We'll see you the next time.